Right. So yesterday we have seen how to exchange the data between two views by creating the context at what level? Component level. Okay. Now let us see data exchange between the views using plug parameters. So as I told you, this is a requirement. Okay. View 1 should contain the sales document. After entering the sales document, when I press enter, the sales document should be exported to what? The target view. Target view has to import that particular parameter, and based on that import parameter, we have to get the sales order header data and item data and bind it to the form and what? Table. Okay. So what you have to understand is outbound plug outbound plug contains export parameters, and the inbound plug can be associated with what? Import parameters. Okay. And the parameter name should be same both in what? Outbound plug and what? Inbound plug. That is a prerequisite. Okay. So if you see the context requirement here, in the view one, I require what? Input field. So input field means what? It can hold only what? Single value. Input field can hold only single value. So since it is a single value, okay, I require what? An individual what? Attribute. I require individual attribute. Done. Then in the target form, in the target view, I require a form for storing a what header record, and I require a table for displaying the what item data. So since this is a single record, I require a node with cardinality as what? 1:1. And since this is a multiple records, again I require a node with cardinality as what? 0 to n. Okay, so this is the overall requirement. Am I clear? So let's proceed it. So I'll go to what? Object Navigator SEAT. So here I'll choose Webdynpro component slash interface. I'll give the component name. Yeah, component name is what? Z10AMWD5. Okay, Z10AMWD5. Create the component. I'll just give the description as data exchange between views using what plug parameters, using plug parameters. Done. And I'll give the window name as component name underscore window, and I'll give the source view name as v1. Source view name is v1. Continue. So a component gets created with a default window and a default view. Done. Okay. So now what I have to do, I require what? One more view. So let me create one more view. Right click on the view, right click on the view and say create, or right click on the component and create. Anything is fine. So I'll right click on the view, I'll create the view. I'll give the view name as something v2. Let me give the description as what? View2. Continue. Right. So view2 is also what? Created. Done. Then what else I require here? uh, view1 requires what? One outbound plug, right? And view2 requires what? One inbound plug. Okay, view1 requires outbound plug, and view2 requires inbound plug. So what I'll do is, as part of this view1, just try to understand. As part of this view1, I'll go to what? Outbound plug. Okay, I'll give a plug name. Please mute your speakers. Right. Okay. In the view one, I'll give the outbound plug. Let me give the outbound plug name as what? To view two. Anything is fine. So I'll give to view two. I'll give the description here. Okay. Navigate to what? View two. Done. You can see now. This is the outbound plug I created. Okay. So what is the requirement here? Whenever I fire the outbound plug, I have to export what? Sales document. Understood? I have to export the sales document. So already I told, outbound plug contains export parameters, inbound plug contains what? Import parameters. So what I have to do is, this is my outbound plug in the view one. Below you can see we have what? Parameters. So I can pass any number of what? Parameters. So what value I have to pass? What we are going to enter here? Sales document. So I'll give a meaningful what? Name here. I'll say what? Parameter name I'll give it as E underscore. Okay. Generally you will start export parameters with what? E. So E underscore S doc. Okay. E underscore S doc type. I have to pass what? Sales document. Na? What is the data element for sales document? Webline underscore what? VA. Webline underscore VA. Okay, so if you go to VBAK table, let me open the table once. Yeah. In the VBAK table for Weblen, what is the data element? Weblen underscore VS. So I'm referring to that particular data element. Okay. So for this outbound plug, I took one export parameter E underscore SDoc. Okay. Which is of type Weblen underscore VA. Done. Right? Then what I have to do? I have to go to what? Target view. I have to define what? Inbound plug. So for the inbound plug name, I'll give it as any name I can give. I'll give it as what? From view one. I'll give the description as what? Navigated from what? View one. Done. So this is my what? Inbound plug. So let me save it. So what you have to do here? What are the parameter exported through outbound plug should be imported in what? Inbound plug. Okay, what are the parameter I exported through outbound plug should be imported through inbound plug. So now if you observe here, in case of outbound plug, how we are exporting the parameter at the outbound plug level itself, we are giving what? One export parameter. Now for inbound plug, if you go to v2, in the inbound plug I am able to give the plug name, but you can see I don't have any option to what? Receive the parameter. Okay, so yesterday I told, on behalf of every inbound plug there is one method gets generated. What is that method? On behalf of every inbound plug, there is a method which gets generated. What is that method? Yesterday I have shown and I have shared the document also. Hmm? Anyone? Classroom or online? Yes, yes, yes. Andil followed by what? Plug name. Yeah, Andil followed by plug name. Okay, so if you see the yesterday's one, right? So you can see this on behalf of the inbound plug. What is the method name? Andil followed by what? Inbound plug name. So here, this is the inbound plug name. Where to check that method? In the methods tab. I'll go to methods tab. Do we have that method here? Andil followed by what? Inbound plug name. So now you double click on the method. Double click on the method. Right. So for this method, somewhere you'll have the parameters here. If you scroll down, yeah, you can see now. Here I can define what? Parameter. There is a default parameter here. We are not concerned with that. What is the parameter I have to import? What is the parameter name I gave in the outbound plug? E underscore sdoc. Here also the parameter name must be what? Same. So I'll say E underscore what? Sdoc. Okay, what is the type? Weblen underscore what? VA. Done. Understood? So the parameter name must be what? Same. Yeah, you can observe here, it is not taking that as import or export. So what you have to understand, this method always contains what? Import parameter, and the outbound plug always contains what? Export parameters. Okay, done. Is it clear? So we have to come to the associated method. As part of that method signature, you have to create that parameter manually. Done. So we are done with what? Outbound plug parameter and what? Inbound plug parameter. What is the next thing you have to do now? What is the next thing you have to do? Yes, I have to design what? View layout. So before designing, we have to visualize your view layout. Okay, this view, source view requires what? One input field for reading what? Sales document. So what is the context I require? Since it is a single value, I can create what? An attribute. Na? So as part of my view one context, I require what? One attribute. Where I should create this context, either at the component level or directly at the view level. Only at what? View level. Because when do we go for component level? If you require the same data across the views, I have to go for what? Component level context. So now in the view one itself, if I double click on the view one, I'll go to the view one context. Under what? Root context, I have to create what? One individual attribute, so that I can bind with what? Input field. So right click on the root context, create what? Attribute. I'll give the attribute name as what? Something. sdoc. Type what? Weblen underscore what? V. So I'm referring to the data element. Okay, done. Continue. So my view context is what? Created. Source view context is created. Once the context is ready, what is the next thing you'll do? You'll design what? Layout. Okay, you'll design the layout. Okay, so what I'll do is here. Okay, so here I'll design the view layout. How to design the view layout? Right click on what is the layout I require? One input field and what? One label. So here right click on the root element container, insert element. I'll give the name as something ip1. Okay, what is the type of view element? Yes, input field. What is the important property for input field? Value property. Input field is always should be bounded with what? Value property. So save it. When I do syntax check, I got a syntax error. Property value of the element what? IP1 must be what? Bound. So here for the input field, let me scroll down. I need to bind what? Value property. Where is that? Yeah, we have what? Value property. I'll just click on this. What is the attribute? sdoc. Okay, so I'm binding with what? Sdoc. v1.sdoc. Let me save it. Check it. No syntax error. Yeah, what it is saying here? It is asking us to, it is giving information. Either you provide the tooltip for what? Input field, or you create what? Label for that. So let me go for what? Label. So right click on the root element container, insert element. I'll give the ID as lb1, type as what? Label. What are the important properties for label? Label for and what? Text. So I'll give the label for as what? Name of what? Input field. And text I'll give it as something what? Yes, I'll give the text as what? Sales document. Done. Okay, done. So I'll just interchange the position. Right click on this to what? First position. I got it. Done. So my view one layout is what? Ready. Is it clear? So let me, we have two views as of now. Let me quickly create the application. Right click on the component, create what? Webdynpro application. I'll say underscore what? App. I'll say app5. Done. Let me save it. A URL gets what? Created. I need to plug what? Both the views to what? Window. So if you go to the window level, by default only the first view is what? Plug. Let me plug the second view also. Drag and drop the v2 onto what? Window level. Then you have to create what? Navigation link. Already we know v1 contains outbound plug, v2 contains inbound plug. Drag and drag the outbound plug onto what? Inbound plug. So I'll just drag and drop onto the inbound plug. It is proposing me the navigation link. Okay, proposing the navigation link. Continue. Done. Let me save it. Check for the syntax error. Done, done, done. Let me go back to the application level. Okay. Let me activate the entire component. Right click on the component and say activate. Right. Which view will be default here? View 1 will be default. Done. So let me just double click on the window, active. Double click on the views. Yes, all are what? Active. Let me create the, let me run the application. So I'll right click on the application and say test. So try to understand this. View 1 will be defaulted here. I got the view 1, right? So here I have to give what? Sales document. Acha, here do you any F4 help here? No. So going forward, we'll see how to associate what? F4 help. Okay. So I'll give the sales document here. Right. I'll give the sales document. What is the requirement here? After entering what? The sales document, I have to press what? Enter. When I press enter, I have to fire what? Outbound plug. So if you assume this as a ABAP selection screen, if you assume this is the ABAP selection screen, what is the event triggered? When you press enter key in the input field, what is the event triggered? There are three events triggered. One is at selection screen on field, then what? At selection screen, then what? At selection screen output. Am I clear? If you assume this as a ABAP selection screen, when you press enter in the input field, three events are triggered one after the other. First event is what? At selection screen on field. Next is what? At selection screen. Next is what? At selection screen output. If you assume this as a module poll, when you press enter key, what is the event triggered? PAI, process after input. Now this is a Webdynpro view. Whenever you press enter key in the Webdynpro view input field, SAP will trigger SAP will trigger a event called as on enter event. For button, what is the event triggered? On action. For input field, when you press enter, the event triggered is what? On enter. As of now, okay, let me just minimize this. As of now, for my view one input field, what is the only property I have binded? Yes, what is the only property I have binded? Value property, na? Value property I have binded with what? The attribute, context attribute. Okay. Now for the input field itself, if you scroll down, what is the event here? On enter. On enter. Am I clear? So on enter, I'll just click on this. Am I clear? I'll just click on this. Yeah, action name. For every event, we have to give what? Action name. So what I have to do here? I have to give some action name. So let me give a meaningful action name. So I'll say export some name. Export sales document to what? V2. Some meaningful action name. Because when I press enter, what I have to do? I have to export that sales document to what? Target view. That's why I am giving this. Let me give a description for this. Export sales document number to what? Target view what? V2. Okay, done. So I have associated what? I have associated action for which event? On enter event. Done, done, done. Okay, let me save it. Check for the syntax error. No errors. Okay, and already we know for every action we create, one corresponding event handler method gets executed. What is that event handler method name now? What is the event handler method name now? On action followed by what? Action name. So if you go to the methods tab, what is that? On action followed by what? Action name. This is the event handler method. Event handler method means we will not call that method. That method will be called by what? The SAP itself whenever the event is triggered. In this case, what is the event? On enter. When you press what? Enter key in the input field. Am I clear to everyone? Okay. Yes, online is it clear to everyone? I've associated on enter event. I've associated on enter event for the input field. As part of that association, we have to provide some action name, and for every action we create, one event handler method gets what? Executed. So now, first let me write the logic for what? This particular one. Okay, so what I have to do now? I have to implement this method now. Double click on this. So, right. So tell me, how do you proceed now? What is that I have to do when I press enter? When I press enter here, okay, I have to read the sales document which you have entered, and that sales document I have to export through what? Outbound plug. Okay, so what is the first step I have to do here? Read the sales document number entered in what? Input field. Okay, so how do we reading that input field value means what? I cannot directly refer to the input field. I have to refer to what? Bounded attribute. What is the bounded attribute here? Yes, s doc. Okay, how do you read the value of any attribute? Get attribute. Yes or no? For every attribute you'll have two methods: get attribute and what? Set attribute. Okay, get attribute is the instance method of which interface? If underscore wd underscore context underscore what? Node. Okay, for that interface, what is the object given by SAP? wd underscore what? Context. If you go to the attributes, what is that? wd underscore context is the object of what? This particular interface. Am I clear? So I have to read the value of what? This particular attribute. This attribute is a child of what? Root context. Root context is always represented by which interface? If underscore w underscore context node, the object for that interface is available in the form of what? View attribute. What is the view attribute here? W underscore what? Context. So let me read it. Is it clear? And this attribute is what type? It is of type what? Webler underscore what? VA. So what I have to do now? I need to declare a local variable. Okay, data. Also what? LV underscore what? SDoc. Type what? Type what? Yes, type what? Webler underscore what? VA. Okay, let me read the value. I'll go to pattern, ABAP objects pattern. What is that? WD underscore what? Context. What is the interface name? If underscore WD underscore context node. What is the method name? Yes, get underscore what? Attribute. Is it clear? Every attribute will contain these two methods: get attribute and what? Set attribute. And since my attribute is under what? Root context. Root context is represented by which interface? If WD what? Context node. What is the object of that interface? WD underscore context, which is available in the form of what? View attribute. Okay, done. Okay, so index is optional. Name, what is the name of the attribute? sdoc. The name of the attribute is what? sdoc. Okay, it returns me the value entered. I'm interested to import it. Importing value equal to what is the local variable I gave? Lv underscore what? Sdoc. Done. Understood? So whatever the sales document I enter in the input field, I am reading that by referring to the bounded attribute. What is the bounded attribute here? Sdoc. Is it clear to everyone so far? Okay, done. Right. What is the next job I have to do now? I have read the what? Sales document. What I have to do next? I have to fire what? Outbound plug. I have to fire the outbound plug. So how do you fire the outbound plug? How do you fire the outbound plug? Already we know, yesterday we have discussed. On behalf of every outbound we create, SAP will generate one method, fire underscore outbound plug name underscore PLG, where that method will be generated. online where that method will be generated. Nah. Anyone? No. As I told, on behalf of every view we create, SAP will generate one local interface. What is the local interface name? If underscore what? View name. In that local interface, that particular method will be available. So, what is this? What is the method? What is the interface name? If underscore what? V1. Where to check it? In the attributes tab, we have what? If underscore what? V1. Am I clear? If I double click on this, if I double click on my local interface, if underscore V1, this will somewhere at the bottom. What is the method we have? Fire underscore what? Outbound plug name underscore what? PLG. So I have to call this method now. I have to call this particular method. So let me call it now. Acha. This is what kind of method here? This is what kind of method? Instance method na. Anything declared by using methods keyword is what? Instance. How do we access instance methods? By using what? Object. I require the object of that interface na. Right? What is the object of that interface given by SAP? WD underscore what? This. Can I say this is object? Yes. Ref to is what? Selected. So what I can do? I can access the interface components either by using the object of that interface or directly by using what? Interface name also. So what I'll do here is just observe. What is the next point then? Yes. If what? LV underscore sdoc is what? Not initial. What I have to do? Yes. Fire what? Fire outbound plug exporting what? Exporting what? Entered sales document. Else what I have to do? Else what I will do? What? Flash what? Message to enter what? Sales document. Understood? So at this stage we don't know how to do message management in what? Webdynpro. Right? If it is a normal app, I can use the message keyword. Here it is browser based. I cannot use that particular message. So later on we'll see how to flash what? Message. So fire what? Outbound plug exporting what? Entered sales document. Done. Yeah. So I have to call that method. Na? How do you call? It is a method available in my local interface. So let me check whether I can call that method using directly by using what? Yes, interface name. So I'll say what? Call method what? If underscore what? V1 implies what is the method name? Fire underscore outbound plug name. What is the outbound plug name? To view to, right? So fire underscore to view to underscore what? PLG. Done. Exporting. That outbound plug has got one export parameter na. What is the export parameter name I give? E underscore what? SDoc is equal to what? LV underscore what? SDoc. Done. Is it clear? So let me check, save it, check it. Oh, I'm getting an error. Oh, good. What is the error I got? If you do not access an interface using a class, you can only access its what? Constants. Good. What is the error I got? If you do not access an interface using a class, you can only access its what? Constants. I am trying to call what? A method. So this is not possible, it seems. So what I have to do now? What is the object of that interface? Yes, wd underscore what? This. So whenever we use object, I have to use arrow operator na, not implies. So let me check it now. Save it, check it, no errors. Done. Is it clear? So simple understanding is this method is available in my local interface. It's an instance method. How do we access instance components? By using what? Object. What is the object of that particular interface? wd underscore what? This. So I'm doing this. Done. Okay. Save it, check it, no errors. Done. Is it clear? So let me debug this. Let me check whether we are able to fire the outbound plug or not. So let me activate the whole component once. I'll put the breakpoint here. Set what? External breakpoint. Is it clear? Let me refresh now. I'll say F5, right. I'll enter what? Okay, I will not enter any sales document. I'll directly press what? Enter. What is the event triggered? On enter. On enter. For that on enter, I gave a action name. Na. On behalf of that action, one event handler method gets generated. Na. In that event handler method only, we have implemented what? Business logic. So when I press enter, is it stopping there? No. Yes, it is stopping there. Make clear? Yes, it has stopped in that particular method. Done. Okay, so I'm trying to read what? I have to trying to read the value of what? Attribute in my local variable what? Lv underscore sdoc. So I'll say F6. What happened? It is initial na? Because I have not entered. So if condition is what? Failed. I have to give what? Message. But I have not given any message. You will see that later on. So I'll give what? 4980. I'll press enter. Again that event gets triggered. The corresponding event handler method gets executed. So here done. If you see lv underscore sdoc, it is what? Blank. I'll say F6. I'll say F6. Yes, what I got? The sales document which I entered. What is that? 4980. If it is not initial, what I am trying to do here? I am trying to fire the outbound plug by exporting the parameter. So I'll say F8. Yes. Did I got the target view? Yes. I have not designed the layout for what? Target view. That's why I got nothing here. But we are able to navigate to what? Target view. Done. Right? Any questions so far? Please ask me. Right? So no questions. Done. So what is the next job now? I have to design my view layout now. So I'll go to target view. Yeah, directly will not design what? Layout. You have to visualize a view layout. I require one form. I require one table. Form is always created based on what? Node with cardinality as 0 to 1 or what? 1 to 1. And table is always created based on what? Node with cardinality as 1 to n or what? 0 to n. So first of all, I have to create what? Context. I require a context. Am I clear? So I'll go to what? View 2. View 2 context. What I require here? Two nodes. Why I require? One node is for binding to a form. Another node is for binding to what? A table. So right click on what? This context. Create what? Node. You can give any node. I'll give the node name as what? VBAK underscore what? Node. Right? I can refer to what? Dictionary structure, but let me cover that part later on. As of now, I'm not referring to any dictionary structure. Done. Then what else? What is the cardinal default? 1 is to 1. Let it be 1 is to 1. Continue. I am not referring to any dictionary structure. I created a blank node. Then what I'll do inside this node, okay, my requirement is how many input fields I want? Some three input fields, date, time, and what? Created by. So I'll take some three input fields, three attributes. Input fields are always bounded with what? Attributes. So I'll say right click on our node, create what? Attribute. I'll give the attribute name as, you can give any name. Let me give the same names. What are they? ER DAT. What is the data element for creation date? ER DAT only. Let me cross check it. Yeah, ER DAT, ER ZDT, and what? ER NAM. Okay, so I'll refer to these three fields. Right click on the node, create another attribute. I'll give the attribute name as ER ZDT type what? ER ZDT. Then again right click on the node, create attribute ER NAM. You can give any attribute name, but the data element should be same. ER NAM. Done. So three attributes are what? Created under my node. Then again right click on the root context, create what, another node. I'll give the node name as what, vbap underscore node. So I'm creating this node to bind with a table na? Table can accommodate what, multiple records. So what is the cardinality I have to choose, either 0 to n or what, 1 to n. 0 minimum 0, maximum n, minimum 1, maximum n. I can take anything, so I'll go for what, 0 to n. vbap underscore what node, again it is a blank node, right? So what are the columns you want to bind here, sales items, material, and what, net value. Okay, so if you go to vbap table, okay, so what are the fields I need to refer, pysnr, material number, and net wr. Right? So VBAP is a table. What is this? Weblen, what is Weblen? I don't want. POSNR what type? POSNR underscore VA, material number, and then what? What is the other field? NETWR. NETWR is what? NETWR underscore AP. Okay, done. What about POSNR? POS underscore VA, done. So I'll just create the attributes manually. Right click on that, create what? Attributes. I'll give the attribute name as same name, POSNR. Data element is what? POSNR underscore VA. Again, right click on the node, create attributes. Material number, type what, material number, right? Then again right click on the node, create attribute. I'll give netwr, type what, netwr underscore what, ap, yeah? AP, done. So I created what, three attributes, done. Save it, check it. So my context is what, ready. What is the cardinality of this, 1 to 1. What is the cardinality of this, 0 to n. Then once a context is ready, you have to design what, layout. So what is the layout I require, one form and one table, one form and one table. So already we know how to design the form. I can go to what, code wizard, or right click on this, what, create what, container form. Right click on the root to UI element container, create container form. Yes, context node. Form is always binded based on what, node. So I'll just click on this. What is the node I'll give, vbak underscore what, node, done. Then okay, if you want any header, create the header, done. I'll give this what, section header, done. Right, so continue. Yeah, you can see it has created one section header, UI element. I'll give the text. What is the text shall I give, sales document what, header data, done. And these are, see, from I am getting the labels here na? From where I got, from the data elements, because I referred those attributes referring to what, data elements. That's why I'm getting what, the labels, done. So this is my what, a form. Okay, this is my form, done, done, done. Right, what is the next part now, I require what, table. Okay, is it clear? So this is done now. Now I create a table. So I'll just choose this. I'll go to what, Webdynpro code wizard. Here we have what, table. Okay, table, context node. What is the context node here, vbap underscore node, done. I'll choose vbap underscore node. Yes, three attributes, three text view UI elements, binding, done. Continue. So when I continue, a table gets created, right? So you can observe here, a table got created, understood. So the important property for table is, let me select the table here. There is important property table. What is this here, data source, understood. I created this table by using what, wizard. Going forward, I'll create the table manually. How you are creating manually so far, we are choosing what, right clicking on what, root element container, insert element. I can create the table like this also. What is the U element? Table. If you create the table manually, we have to set what? Data source property. Since I have done it through what? Wizard, data source property is automatically what? Set. Okay, so I got the, what is important property for table? Data source property. Done. Am I clear? Next. Everything, yes. This table, what is the property we have binded? Data source. With what node it is binded? Vwap node. Vwap node has got how many attributes? Three attributes. That's why it is proposing three columns with the data, with the description from the data element level. Understood? Here also, if you want any what heading caption kind of thing for table, what I can do, I'll right click on the table and I'll say anywhere any caption is there here. Where? No, it's not there. So what I'll do, right click on the table. There is something what? Insert what? Toolbar. Anything header is there, but it is disabled here. Insert header is what? Disabled. So I'll just again let me 1 second. Let me scroll down. Anything inserted by default? Let me check. It's there. What is this? Tablet is already inserted, that's why it is disabled. So I'll just click on this. What is the UI element here? See, table header. What is that? Caption. Caption UI element. Understood? I created the table by using what? Wizard. Automatically it has created what table header. What type of UI element? Caption. So let me give a caption here. Text. What is this? Sales item. So somewhere you'll get it. Sales item. Done. Okay. So I've designed the form as well as the table by using what? Wizard only. Okay. And for table, what is the important property? Data source property. Remember that. So let me save it. Check it. Any syntax errors? No syntax error. Activate your view. So both the view layouts are what? Available now. Let me test it quickly. Let me activate the component once. Right click on the application and say test. Sales document, I'll enter 4980, press enter. Right, so what happened? I got the target target view. Okay, now what I have to do here? What I have to do? I have to enter what? Sorry, in the target view, we are importing what? Sales document. Based on that, get the header data and get the item data. Bind the header data with this form. Bind the item data with this table. That is the requirement. Okay. So see this. I have fired the outbound plug. Control has went to what? Target view. We have exported one parameter which is imported through inbound plug. Na? Imported through inbound plug means what is the method which will import that? Already we know. On behalf of inbound plug, what is the method which gets created? Handle followed by what? Inbound plug name. So if you go to the methods tab, we have what? Handle inbound plug name. Here only we prepared that parameter manually. Na? If you double click on this, what is the parameter I prepared manually here? Yes, what is the parameter? E underscore what? S dot. This is a parameter. E underscore what? Sdoc is a parameter. Yeah, always in the handle method it is what? Importing parameter. Yeah. What is this? E underscore what? Sdoc type options. Outbound plug will always contain export. Inbound plug always contains import. Inbound plug means you have to refer to this particular method. Okay. Done. So what I have to do now? Based on this imported parameter, I have to get the header data and what? Item data. Header data is single record. Item data is what? Multiple records. So what I will do now first? But the first thing I have to do, get the what? Sales document header data. Header data based on what? Based on imported imported sales. So for your reference I'm giving the comment. Okay, so I require one work area na? So let me declare types begin of what, ty underscore vbak. How many fields I have to take? Three fields, because my form contains how many input fields? Three. What are this? ER, DAT, type what? VBAK hyphen ER DAT, or refer to the what? Data element. Anything is fine. ER what? ZET type, ER ZET. Next, ER NAM, type what? Type ERNAME, then I'll close this. End of what? Ty underscore VBAK. Done. Then I'll say data. Okay, data. I require work area na. So W underscore VBAK type what? Ty underscore VBAK. As usual, let me write the select query. Okay, I'll write the select query here. Select what? Single ERDAT, ERZET, ERNAM from what? VBAK into what is the work area into what? W underscore VBAK. Is it clear? Where what? Weblen equal to what is the imported parameter? E underscore what? Sdoc. Done. Then if what? If size of RC equal to 0 means if select is successfully executed. Yeah, what I have to do now? Hmm? Okay, later on we'll get the item data. If size of RC equal to 0, this work area data I have to bind with this form. Na? I have to bind with this form. So see the technique here. Already we know we cannot directly refer to what? UI elements. This form is bounded with what node? VBAK node. So if size of RC equal to 0, this work area I have to bind with what? This particular node, na? Right? So if it is an attribute, how do we set the value for the attribute? Set attribute. But this is not an attribute, na? It is a node. It is a child node of what? Of what? Root context. It is a child node of what? Root context. So what I have to do is, in order to set the data for this node, we have to travel to that node from the top. We have to travel to that node from the top. What is the top node here? Root context. What is the root context interface? If wd what? Context node. What is the object of that interface? Wd underscore what? Context. Already we know this, right? Wd underscore context. So I repeat once again, this work area data I have to bind with the form, but I cannot refer directly to the UI element. Na? I have to refer to the bounded node and what? Attribute. In this context, the form is bounded with what? Node what? VBAK node. What is the cardinality? 1 is to 1, right? So if you want to set the data for this node, we have to travel till that node. We have to get the address of that node. This node is always the child of what? Yes, child of what? Root context. Root context is represented by which interface? If underscore wd underscore context node. So if you go to the interface what? If underscore wd underscore what? Context node, right? So in this already we have seen some methods what? Get attribute and what? Set attribute. Now in this interface we have one method what? Get child node. Am I clear? So what is that thing you have to understand? I have to set the value for that node means I have to get the address of that node. Na? Where is that node available? As a child of what? Root. Child is represented by which interface? If wd what? Context node. In that interface there is a method what? Get child node. What is this method? Instance. How do we access instant methods? By using what? Object. What is the object of this interface given by SAP? wd underscore what? Context. So using this object I need to call which method? Get child node. So what I get child node? VBAK node is a child of root only, na? So what is the next step here? Get the what? Reference of what? Child node. What is that node? VBAK underscore what? Node. Okay, get the reference of what? Child node, VBAK underscore node. So I'll go to what? Sorry. Before calling the method, you have to check the signature. Na? See the signature of get child node. I'll put the cursor, go to what? Parameters. There is one importing parameter which is what? Optional. What is this here? Index. So I'll leave it. Name. What is this here? Importing mandatory. Na? Type what? String. What it is expecting? Name of what? Lower level node. So our node is a lower level node only. Na? What is the name of the node? VBAK underscore node. Done. Then what does it do? What does it do? It returns. Returns is what? Returning the object of which interface? Which interface? Same interface, na? So I am interested to receive this object. So I require the reference, na? So let me declare the reference. So I'll say data for our understanding. I'll say ref underscore what? VBAK underscore what? Node type ref2. Okay, or else I'll give the name as what? Context underscore what? VBAK node type ref2. What is the return type? Same na. If underscore WD underscore what? Context node. So I have to call this method na, which is the instance method of this interface. What is the object of this interface given by SAP? WD underscore what? Context. One second, please. It got stuck. 1 second. Yeah. So I declare the reference. So let me use the pattern now. Understood? I'll go to pattern, ABAP objects pattern. What is the object of the root context? WD context. What is the interface? So and so. What is the method I have to call? Get child node. Get child node. Child node. Yeah. So see this. Index is optional. Name. What is the name of our child node? VBAK underscore what? Node. It returns the reference of that interface. What is the reference I declared? Context underscore VBAK underscore what? Am I clear? I am going by the signature of the method. This method is returning me the object of this interface. I am interested to receive that object. To receive that object, I require a reference. Na? So I gave the reference name is what? A meaningful name. Context underscore VB, or simply give OB also. Okay, done. What is the next part? If what? If what? Context underscore VBAK underscore node is what? Bound. Is bound. Yes or no? Bound means what? If it is not initial. If it is not initial, what I have to do? Yes. Bind the data to the what? VBAK node. Bind the data to the VBAK. Where is the data available? In your work area. Work area is nothing but a structure only. Na? Okay, and this node cardinality is what? 1 is to 1. So see here, I am calling this method to get the address of my node. It is returning the object of same interface. Na? So if you go to this interface, anywhere in that interface only, in the same interface, there is a method what? Bind what? How do you bind a single attribute value? Set attribute. Na? How do you bind a record? Single record. Bind structure. What is this method? Instance. How do you call it? By using what? Object. What is the object I got in the previous step? What is the object I got in the previous step? Context underscore VBAK node. What is the signature of this method? All are what? All the importing parameters are what? Optional. Returning is any optional. Na? So I'm not interested to receive this time. All are what? Optional. One of the parameter is what? New underscore item. It is type what? Data. Where is the data available in our case? W underscore what? VBAK. So see the technique here. Bind the data. Okay. So I'll go to pattern again. What is the reference of our node? What is the reference of a node? Context underscore VBAK underscore node. What is the method I have to call? Bind underscore what? Structure. Okay, done. So exporting new underscore item. All are optional here. Returning is also optional. New underscore item equal to what is the work area? W underscore what? VBAK. Done. And if okay, so simple understanding. Let me execute this first. Let me check whether I'll get the data or not, then I'll debug and I'll explain once again. I'll activate the whole component. It's activated. When I execute this, I'm pressing enter, nothing is happening. Okay, I have to give what? 4980. I'll press enter. Yes, they got the data. I got the date, time, and what? Created by. Am I clear? So this is simple. This method is having one importing parameter. We are getting the data based on what? Importing by. If the data is available, this work area data, we have to bind with what? Form. Form is bounded with what node? VBAK node. So see the story here. Always your nodes and attribute you will create under root context. Na? So what is this here? Root. Yes, context. Okay. So in this we have child node 1, for example. This child node will have what? Some what? Yes, contains what? Attributes. Try to understand. Under this child node, I'll take another child node. Try to understand this child node what? 2. This child node 2 has got what? Some what? Attributes. Okay. Now I'll take another child node what? 3. Where it is? Child node 3, not under child node 1. It is under what? Root context. So this is the what? My context you assume. Okay. So you have to set the data. Okay. This is my what? Context. Okay. So this is the root context. Root context means that if underscore wd underscore context node. Okay. Now here logic for what? Logic for what? Yes, setting the data to what? Child node what? 3. Okay, what is the logic now? Simple understanding. Child node 3 is a child of root context now. So what you have to do? Yes, what is the logic? From the root context, get the what? Reference of what? Child node. Which child node? Child node 3, yeah? Child node 3. Am I clear? Done. What is the next step here? Using the what? Reference of what? Child node 3, set the what? Data. That is the logic. Okay. Now I want to set the logic for setting the data to what? Child node what? 2. Okay. See the technique. Child node 2 is a child of what? Child node 1. Child node 1 is a child of what? Root context. So how do we travel now? Yes, from the root context, what you have to do? Get the reference of what? Child node. Which child node here? Yes, which child node? Child node what? 1, 1. Done. Then what is the next step here? Using the reference of what? Child node 1, sorry, child node what? 1, get the reference of what? Child node what? 2, understood? Because child node 2 is a child of what? Child node 1. Then last step is what? Using the what? Reference of what? Child node 2, set the data. So that is the overall story. Am I clear? Am I clear to everyone online? Okay, done. Okay, so the same logic I'm following here. So let me reopen that. So that VBAK node is a child of what? Root context. Root context is always represented by which interface? If underscore W underscore what? Context underscore what? Node. What is the object of that interface? W underscore what? Context. So how do you get the reference of any node? By calling a method called as what? Get child node. I'll save this in your folder. Right. So here, understood the concept here. So from the root, I'm getting the reference of what? Child node. How to get the reference of any node? Get child node. See what object I'm using. From the top, I have to travel. So top is represented by what? WD context. So when I give the node name, it returns the reference of that node. Using that reference, I have to bind the data. Na? What data I have to bind? Work area data. Na? What is the method I have to use? Bind structure. Done. So this is fine. Okay, this if is fine. Now, what is the next part here? If size of R is equal to 0 means what? Sales document header data is what? Available. So here only I'll say, what is the next job here? Yes, get the what? Sales items based on what? Imported sales document. Is it clear? I have to bind the sales items also now. I have to get the data. So I require one internal table now. Let me declare somewhere here only. So I'll say what? Types begin of ty underscore what? VBAK, what is the fields? PYSNR type what? PYSNR underscore what? VA, what else? Material number, type what? Material number. Next, NETWR type what? NETWR underscore what? API, AP, then what? End of what? TY underscore VBAP. Then I'll say data. I require internal table na T underscore VBAP type table of what? TY underscore VBAP. So I declared what? Internal table. So somewhere here, get the sales item there. Sales select what? PYSNR material number. What else? NETWR from what? VBAP into table. What is the internal table? T underscore VBAP where Veblen is equal to what? E underscore what? SDoc. E underscore SDoc. Right? Understood? Then if what? Size of R is equal to 0, I have to set the data. Na? Set the data to what? Table. Na? Table is bounded with what node? VBAP node. VBAP node is a direct child of what? Root. So again same story. So what you'll do? Yes, get the what? Reference of the node. Which node? Yes, VBAP underscore what? Node. So how do you get the reference? Get child node. So I require a reference. So context, I'll give a meaningful name. Type what? Ref to if underscore W underscore context underscore node. So get the reference. I'll use a pattern. We have to travel from the root. Na? What is the root? W underscore context. What is the method? Get what? Child node. Yes, what I have to pass here? Name of the node. What is the name of the node? VBAP underscore what? Node. What is the reference? Context underscore what? VBAP underscore what? No. Done. Okay. Next. Next what? If context underscore VBAP underscore what? Node is what? Bound. Bound means what? If it is not initial, if it is an object, what you have to do? Bind the data to which node? VBAP node. VBAP node, what is the cardinality? 0 to n bounded with what, table. Na? So I have to bind what? Table. So I got the reference of this interface. Which interface? Context node. So in that same interface, I am having a method what? Bind what? Table. Is it clear? So everything will revolve on in this interface. Bind table. What is the signature? Instant method. How do you call it? By using what? Object. Check the parameters. The last two are what? Optional. First parameter is what? Mandatory. What is this here? Any table. Any table. So here I'll say, I'll use a what? Pattern. Right? ABAP objects pattern. What is the reference I got? Context underscore what? VBAP underscore node. What is the method? Yes, bind underscore what? Table. Bind underscore table. Right? New underscore items equal. What is the internal table? T underscore what? VBAP. Done, 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 done. Huh? That's all, na? I have to close this. What? End if. Okay? And here only, if size of r is equal to 0, we are doing that. Else, I'll just give a message what? Flash what? Message to indicate what? No sales what? Items. No sales items. Okay. This is for this one. And we have one more if here. This is for header. So here I'll say what? Else flash message to indicate what? No sales, no sales header data. Done. Save it, check it, activate this. So let me use pretty printer. Everything is what? Aligned properly. Okay. Right. So I'll put the breakpoint in this. I'm putting the breakpoint in this method. Okay. Let me activate the whole component. Let me execute this. Right click and say test. Done. I'll enter 49 what? 85. Okay. Press enter. We are exporting, that is imported by what? Event handler method handle so and so. Yes, control is going to what? That method, inbound plug method handle so and so. Okay. What is the parameter we exported there? 4985. So what is the value? Yes, 49 what? 85. Okay. So I'm trying to get the header data. F5 select size of ours is what? 0. Size of ours is what? 0. Okay. Then what I'm doing, I'm trying to get the reference of that particular node. So if you see context VBAK node, as of now it is what? Initial. Context VBAK node is as of now what? Initial. Am I clear? So when I'm trying to get the reference, I'll say F6. Yes, I got the object of what? The class. You'll not get the object of the interface now. You'll get the object of what? Implementation class. So I got the reference done. If it is bound, if it is not initial, done. What I'm doing here? I'm calling the method what? Bind structure to bind the data to that particular referenced node. It might have binded. Then I'm getting what? Item data. As of now, there are no items. When I exit the select statement, I got some items. How many items I got? 4 items. Then we are getting the reference of what? That VBAP node. As of now, it is initial. I'm trying to get the reference. Yes, I got the reference of that. Using that, I'm calling which method? Bind table. So when I say F8, I got the data. Is it clear? So for setting single attribute value, we have to use what? Set attribute. For setting a record, bind structure. For setting a table, bind table. All those methods are part of what? The interface only. What is the interface? If W what? Context. So the main thing is we should understand this. Any questions? Yeah, yeah, we can. We can assure. I am referring to data element. Okay, so when you are creating these attributes, I am referring to the data element. If you don't want to refer to the data element, say what? Table name hyphen field name. It works fine. Clear? So these are the two ways to exchange the data between what? Two views within the same Webdynpro component. Later on during the course, we'll see how to exchange the data across the component views. Done? Okay. Acha, one small information. Tomorrow I'm not available. Tomorrow I'm not available, so I'll not take the Webdynpro class tomorrow. Okay, so tomorrow's schedule is since some of you are attending other batches, tomorrow's schedule is 6:45 a.m. to 7:45 a.m. Uh, we'll have what? Oops Abab and 7:45 a.m. to what? 8:45 a.m. we'll have what? That Korabab. Okay. Next Webdynpro class, I'll take it on what? Thursday around same time 10 a.m. So tomorrow no class for what? Webdynpro. Online, hope it's clear to everyone. Right? So I'll wind off. We'll continue again on Thursday with another concept in what Webdynpro. So if you see the thing here, yeah. So if you see here, we are done with the basic part. We understood how to work with what views, how to navigate between the views, and how to exchange the data between the views. And we also understood how to write the code in what Webdynpro without using what wizard. So everything will revolve under what get attribute, set attribute, get child node, bind structure, and what bind table. Okay. So next class onwards, from Thursday onwards, we'll be focusing on what these things. Anyhow, control programming, we'll be using all these things throughout the course. Anyhow, we have used what? Input field, we have used label, we have just now used what? Table, we have seen push button, text view, section header, blah blah blah. This will continuous process. So next class onwards, we'll be seeing these important things. Right? So I'll wind off. We'll meet again on Thursday for Webdynpro. Chalo.